everything else you can imagine. They're smart enough to eke a living out of dust, which is more than I can say for humankind, let me tell you. If we were half of what critters are, we wouldn't have a care in the world. Travelers through the desert aren't uncommon. We have a dozen different folks dropping in and out day to day. Messengers and peddlers and outlaws and hunters and just about any other type of person you could think of passing through on their way to elsewhere. But most folks don't cut it so close to nightfall, when the great doom is on the roam. Still, sometimes I wake at night and I see lights crossing the valley, wagon trains led by torches. I hear little snippets of singing, folks hollering hymns and prayers, protections against the great doom. I see them, and I say a prayer myself. The wind's roaring and howling out there, and I'm grateful to be safe here in the village, protected. You wouldn't close the gates on the rider, would you? I said, because the nearest town is a 3-day journey from here at best. You wouldn't leave him out there all night? Grandpa Widow spat in the dust. I'd do what was best for the village, he said. You know good and well that is our first priority. Grandpa Widow is twig frail and about 100 years old, but he's still the toughest person I've ever seen in my life. I bet he could whoop half the village with a hand behind his back. Not that he would, mind you. Grandpa Widow isn't much for violence. Listen here, Gussy. That's what Grandpa Widow calls me, Gussy, or just plain Gus, even though my whole name is Gustavina Mithridates Pearl, which is a mouthful and a half. He'll say, violence is always a mistake, even when it's necessary. I don't much know what that means because in what world would mistakes sometimes be necessary? But that's the way Grandpa Widow is. He likes to say something and let you chew on it a while. Says the act of figuring out what something means is more important than the meaning itself. Drives me crazy sometimes, I'll be honest with you. But it's hard to hold anything against Grandpa Widow. He's the one who raised me up, who taught me how to keep us safe. He is the one in charge of keeping the great doom from creeping in and infecting everything by performing the rites. Years and years of protectors have come and gone to pass down these rituals to Grandpa Widow. He brought them here to the village more than 50 years ago, because when the great doom gets in, from a hole in the gates, or an ill-tied cardinal feather, or if some desert dog digs up the chicken foot, if anything at all goes wrong, then it sets about infecting things. And if a house gets sick, that's trouble, because that's the sort of sickness that spreads faster than a fire. Grandpa Widow can cure a house. He can cure anything so far as I'm concerned. But it takes a lot of work, and that's hard on a fellow as ancient as Grandpa Widow. That's why he is training me in cricket. We are supposed to take over when he gets too old. It made me nervous watching that rider, still so far out from the gates. I wished he'd hustle up. Things take so long to arrive anywhere in the desert, even when you can see them coming with your own eyes. I didn't want him getting shut out, the great doom having its way with him. Big Gordo was getting antsy too, you could tell. His name is no joke. He's near 7 feet tall and bald-headed as the moon. His voice rumbles like faraway thunder, and he's the only person in town strong enough to swing the gates all on his own. His biceps are twice the size of my whole skull. But Big Gordo's no brute, not when you get to know him. He spends most of the day reading, for one. I'm always sliding him books from Grandpa Widow's library on the sly, so he can have something to do instead of stare out at nothing, hoping for some kind of fancy mirage all day. He has the gentlest blue eyes the shimmer of hailstones, and he can whistle like a blackbird. Also, he's a poet, but that's another thing I'm not supposed to tell anybody. He writes poems about exotic flowers mostly, and about snowstorms, and great big slabs of ice he calls glaciers. He says they move slow over the earth like ancient beasts, scraping the ground dry. But why don't you ever write about stuff you see every day? I asked him once. Like, why don't you scribble an ode to scrubgrass or turkey vultures, or a cow skull with a flower in it or something like that? He shrugged at me. I write to travel, little buddy. I thought that was a pretty good answer. The rider was coming closer and closer, that horse galloping with all its might. I wished we were in the rectory eating Grandpa Widow's unnameable stew. I'd play Grandpa Widow all the fiddle songs he wanted. He likes the ballads, the one about ships sinking and all the young men drowning, and the maidens building boats out of their bodies to sail home, crying all